At a noisy pizza joint off campus, Ethan Sinclair suddenly declared he was ready to start dating. The rest of their friends erupted in a chorus of rowdy cheers, immediately demanding to know which girl had caught his eye. Only Liam Carter remained silent, rolling his eyes at the ceiling. It wasn't that he begrudged his friend a relationship. He was simply allergic to the very concept lately. Just last week, his sister Ava, freshly 18, had brought her new boyfriend home. The sight of the guy's bleached blonde hair alone had made Liam want to call the cops. Ava, completely starstruck, had pleaded with him, asking if he would bless their relationship because she was truly in love. He demanded to know what on earth she saw in him. Her answer was that he made incredible pancakes. The guy rode a deafeningly loud motorcycle and spouted obnoxious catchphrases he'd clearly picked up from some toxic online guru, the sound of which made Liam's toes curl inside his sneakers. No amount of reasoning could convince Ava to break up with him. She'd even threatened to block Liam's number. Consequently, the topic of dating was a sore spot. Noticing his silence, Ethan's gaze settled on him. He asked Liam what he thought. Liam shot him a weary look and questioned why he would ever worry about finding someone. Ethan Sinclair was the undisputed king of campus, cool and impossibly handsome. Though he'd always been single, the line of girls who had confessed their feelings for him could circle the football stadium 3 times over. He could have a girlfriend in a heartbeat if he wanted. Ethan explained, however, that his standards were a little high. Liam asked what he was looking for. As soon as the words left his mouth, Ethan's eyes began a slow, deliberate appraisal of Liam, making the hairs on his arms stand up. Ethan started listing his requirements. He wanted someone tall, fair-skinned, and attractive. Liam immediately suggested Chloe, the captain of the cheerleading squad. Ethan added that her family needed to be on a similar financial footing as his, as he was wary of anyone being interested in his money. Liam countered with the name of a girl from the business school whose father was a hedge fund manager. Then Ethan added the strangest requirement. She should ideally be a little bit naive. Liam finally put down his slice of pizza, unable to contain his exasperation. He told Ethan he might as well be looking for a unicorn with standards like that. Ethan insisted they weren't that high, launching into a longer list of traits. He wanted someone who loved sports, was into classic sci-fi films, had a big heart, and adored animals. He was still rattling off qualities when their roommate, Mike, cut him off. Mike pointed out that, except for the gender, Ethan had just perfectly described Liam. Like him? Amid the boisterous laughter of their friends, an idea sparked in Liam's mind. He grabbed Ethan's sleeve, his voice filled with sudden excitement. He told Ethan he knew the perfect person. Ethan's expression brightened. Liam fumbled for his phone, scrolling through photos until he found one of his sister. He presented it to Ethan, explaining that Ava was practically his twin in terms of interests. She was beautiful, athletic, a movie buff, and a volunteer at the local animal shelter. Most importantly, he added, her judgment was seriously questionable. Otherwise, she never would have fallen for the blonde idiot. He extolled Ethan's virtues, pointing out that his looks and family background were top tier. Getting with him would be the biggest win of Ava's life. For some reason, despite Liam's earnest sales pitch, Ethan's expression was incredibly strained. When he finally spoke, it sounded as though he were grinding his teeth. He asked how he had never known Liam had a sister. Liam explained that he rarely mentioned her, worried that people might pursue her. He hadn't counted on her having such terrible taste herself. He suggested that if Ethan was interested, he should come over to their house for a visit, and he would arrange a meeting. Liam had expected Ethan to be thrilled. After all, besides her poor choice in men, Ava was a real catch. But Ethan's face was grim. He agreed through clenched teeth that he would come over on the weekend for a visit. Despite his apparent reluctance, Ethan seemed to take the upcoming meeting seriously, trying on several different outfits in their dorm room. The other roommates couldn't resist poking fun at him. Mike joked that Ethan was really determined to make Liam his brother-in-law. Ethan said nothing in response, pulling off one shirt to try another. The movement revealed the smooth, defined muscles of his back and shoulders, the lines of his abdomen tensing and relaxing. Liam had to admit, Ethan was in incredible shape. Even as a man, he felt an odd impulse to reach out and touch. The image of Ava's scrawny, washed-out boyfriend, who looked like a strong wind could knock him over, flashed through his mind, and he shuddered. He advised Ethan to maybe skip the gym for a while, fabricating a story that his sister wasn't into guys who were too muscular. He asked if that was really true. Liam bluffed, saying of course it was, and threw out a common saying about moderate exercise attracting the opposite sex while excessive exercise attracts the same. At that, Ethan stopped dressing and turned to face him fully. He asked Liam directly if he found him attractive. Liam told him to get lost, insisting he was 100% straight. Ethan replied coolly that guys who were actually straight rarely felt the need to announce it. Liam snatched a crumpled napkin from his desk and chucked it at the back of Ethan's head, telling him he should be more concerned with making a good impression at his house. It had been a throwaway comment, but that weekend, Ethan showed up at his front door with an armful of gifts. Liam was taken aback, telling him it was just an introductory meeting with his sister, not a formal proposal. Ethan, ever the charmer, replied that it was his first time visiting his home, so he had to come prepared. Dressed in a crisp button-down shirt and tailored chinos, with his hair perfectly styled, he looked less like a casual guest and more like a suitor arriving to ask for a hand in marriage. Unfortunately, Liam had miscalculated one crucial detail. Ava was nowhere to be found. She had apparently fled the house at 5 in the morning as if escaping a trap. Liam was practically steaming with frustration. Ethan, on the other hand, showed no sign of disappointment at all. This made Liam feel unexpectedly guilty, so he offered to give him a tour of the house. As they walked, Ethan casually asked if Liam was always this eager to find a match for his sister. Liam retorted that Ethan should be more concerned about himself. Ethan was unbothered, claiming he had nothing to worry about since he wasn't lacking for admirers. Ethan suddenly stopped walking, his gaze fixed on Liam's face. He asked who exactly was pursuing him. Was it the freshman girl who'd asked for directions yesterday? Or the one from his calculus class who'd borrowed a pen 3 days ago? Or maybe the one who'd needed to borrow his meal card last week? Liam was speechless. He couldn't believe Ethan's memory for such trivial details. It was just a bit of bragging, but Ethan was dissecting it like a legal argument. Liam tried to brush it off, but Ethan pressed on, a strange intensity in his eyes as he asked what kind of girl Liam liked. Liam answered that he obviously liked pretty girls, someone gentle and empathetic. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but the more he described his ideal type, the darker Ethan's expression became. When he asked what was wrong, Ethan took a deep breath and forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes, saying it was nothing. They finished the tour, but Ava never showed up. It wasn't until after Ethan had left that she finally slunk back home. Liam immediately accused her of being out with that blonde moron again. She defiantly corrected him, saying his name wasn't Blonde Moron and that she loved his rebellious spirit. Liam had to physically steady himself to keep from fainting. She insisted that she loved the guy and that true love was more important than anything. He asked if she was sure. She confirmed she was. The next day, Liam brought home a girl who looked like she'd walked straight out of a low-budget music video, complete with a cringy dance she performed on the spot. He told Ava to greet her future sister-in-law. Ava stared, dumbfounded, at the girl in the hot pink tracksuit. She asked if this was his girlfriend, noting that she looked even younger than her. Liam confirmed she had just turned 18 yesterday but was indeed her sister-in-law now. Ava recoiled in horror, asking if he was serious. Liam ignored her protests, launching into a dramatic monologue about how he was going to marry this girl, that as soon as she turned 20, he would give her half his shares in the family company and make her a respected member of their family. He gave the hired actress, Roxy, a subtle nod. She understood her cue perfectly. She sauntered up to Ava and said hello. As she extended a hand, Ava's eyes widened at the sight of a faded, poorly inked designer logo tattooed above her thumb. Ava hesitantly asked for her name. The girl's demeanor changed in an instant. Her name was Roxy, she snapped. She then performed an aggressive, flailing dance move, demanding to know what Ava had just called her. She informed Ava that girls called her Rox, friends called her Roxy Poxy, and guys called her Queen Roxy. Calling her by her full name was a declaration of war. She finished by drawing a finger across her throat, a gesture that finally broke Ava's composure. Ava shrieked at Liam, asking where on earth he had found such a train wreck. Though he'd orchestrated the whole thing, Liam had to admit, the sheer level of cringe was making his own joints ache. Ava finally dragged him aside. She whispered frantically that the girl was a mess and demanded to know what he saw in her. Liam calmly parroted her own logic back at her, saying he was drawn to her rebellious, free spirit. If she could love a guy with bleached hair, why couldn't he love a girl in a pink tracksuit? The silence that followed was deafening. Ava finally caved, asking what it would take for both of them to end these ridiculous relationships. Liam told her it was impossible, that they were in true love and could never be parted. He knew he had her cornered. He turned away, leaving Ava fuming. He told his darling Roxy that it was time for their date. Roxy nodded, grabbing his arm and whispering that this performance was costing him extra, as she'd had to spend all night studying viral videos of obnoxious influencers. He assured her the money would be in her account shortly. The online casting service had really delivered. He walked Roxy to the end of the driveway, but as she was leaving, he saw a familiar figure approaching. It was Ethan. A knot of dread formed in Liam's stomach. He'd completely forgotten that Ethan had said he would come by again today. Just as Ethan was about to speak, his eyes landed on Roxy's hand, still linked with Liam's arm. His smile froze on his face. He asked who she was. Before Liam could explain that she was just an actress he'd hired, his sister burst out of the house. Ava screamed at him, asking if he was really going to be with this girl, if he was really going to marry her. Ethan heard every word, his shocked gaze snapping back to Liam. He was going to marry her? It was over. His reputation was ruined. But in front of Ava, he had to see the act through. He grit his teeth and confirmed that yes, he was going to marry her, and no one could stop him. Ava let out a furious sob and ran back into the house. With the situation spiraling out of control, Liam quickly told Roxy to leave. That left him alone with Ethan. Liam tried to explain, but Ethan cut him off. He reminded him that just yesterday, he had claimed to like pretty girls. Liam stammered that Roxy was fine. He didn't know why, but facing Ethan's intense stare, he felt a strange sense of guilt. Ethan's expression was cold as stone. He said Liam's taste was truly something else, then turned on his heel and walked away without another word. Liam, needing to deal with his crying sister, decided he would have to explain everything to Ethan back at school tomorrow. Ava was sobbing in her room. He spoke to her through the closed door, offering a deal. If she broke up with the blonde guy, he would break up with Roxy. A moment of silence was followed by the sound of the lock turning. The door opened, and Ava, right there in front of him, called her boyfriend, broke up with him, and then deleted his contact information. A massive weight lifted from Liam's shoulders. What a ridiculous couple of days it had been. But Ava was still crying, saying she was heartbroken and missed him already. Liam watched her, trying not to roll his eyes. He told her he had something that would make her stop loving the guy for good. He waited for her to look at him, then took a deep breath. He told her in a serious tone that the guy was a walking jinx. For a moment, Ava's tears stopped. Liam pressed his advantage, asking her to think about how they had met. She recounted that she had fallen and he had helped her up, that he was the only one who had noticed her. Liam scoffed at her romanticized version of events. He pointed out that she'd been wearing heels for years without incident. How was it possible that she just happened to trip and fall on a perfectly flat sidewalk the exact moment he was passing by? He argued that this was clear evidence of his jinx-like effect on her. Ava's eyes widened, her voice wavering as she admitted that it did seem a little strange. He continued, asking what she could possibly gain from being with someone like that, other than learning the art of spontaneous disassembly. He leaned in, placing a hand on her shoulder, and painted a grim picture of her ending up in pieces scattered across town. A bit in the sewer, a piece in the fridge, while her boyfriend's only contribution would be to help the police narrow down the search area. The image terrified her into silence. Liam felt a profound sense of relief. After that, she probably wouldn't even think about dating for the next few years. He went back to his room, humming happily. He had just transferred the extra payment to Roxy when his phone rang. It was her. She sounded frantic, accusing him of setting her up. She demanded to know why, if he already had a boyfriend, he didn't just ask him for help instead of hiring her. She said she had been scared to death. He had no idea what she was talking about. He could only make out her panicked shrieks about how the whole plan was the same, whether he brought home a fake girlfriend or his real boyfriend. She wailed that if she'd known his boyfriend was going to show up, she never would have taken the job. He asked her to clarify what boyfriend she was talking about. She exclaimed that it was the handsome guy from his doorstep. Apparently, not long after she'd left, Ethan had chased her down and interrogated her, asking for her name, age, and home address until she thought he was an undercover cop. Ethan? He couldn't understand why Ethan would harass Roxy like that. She explained that she had told him everything, that she was just an actress paid to do a job. She described Ethan's demeanor as being like a jealous spouse catching their partner cheating. She hung up, leaving Liam standing there, completely bewildered. He immediately sent a text to Ethan, demanding to know why he had intimidated the girl. Ethan's reply came back instantly. He asked if Liam was seriously questioning him about it. He claimed he had just been curious about Liam's bafflingly poor taste and wanted to see what was so special about the girl, to vet her for him. It was such a ridiculously formal excuse that Liam couldn't find a way to argue against it. Then Ethan turned the tables, asking if their friendship didn't even warrant him looking out for him. Suddenly, Liam was the one on the defensive. He instinctively replied that of course it did. They were roommates after all. And besides, he added, if Ethan and his sister got together, he'd be his brother-in-law and they'd be family. The moment he sent the message, the indicator showed Ethan was typing a reply. But no message came through. Liam wondered if he was composing an entire essay in praise of his logic. Then 2 words finally appeared. You're cruel. After that, Ethan started giving him the silent treatment. The guy who used to grab him a coffee on his way back to the dorm now acted like he didn't exist. The other two roommates noticed. Mike pulled him aside and asked if he and Ethan had fought. Liam asked how he could tell. Mike explained that normally, when Liam messed up in their online games and they yelled at him, Ethan would defend him. But last night, Liam had cost them 4 ranked matches in a row, and while the other roommate was about to lose his mind, Ethan hadn't said a single word. Thinking back, Liam realized it was true. He couldn't figure out what he had done to make him so angry. Maybe Ethan had found out about him using his food delivery discount code. Feeling awkward but knowing he had to fix it, Liam decided to apologize. That afternoon, he deliberately followed Ethan to class, choosing a seat in the front row next to him. This was a massive change in routine. Normally, he slept until 10 minutes before class, rolled out of bed, and slumped into a seat in the back to play games on his phone with Mike. Making this effort for Ethan felt like a huge sacrifice. He was out of breath by the time he got to the lecture hall. For some reason, when Ethan noticed Liam following him, he had sped up. Not one to be outdone, Liam had quickened his pace too. What was normally a 10-minute walk had turned into a 5-minute sprint. He confronted Ethan, asking what his problem was and why he couldn't just say what was on his mind instead of being so melodramatic. Ethan didn't answer. Liam noticed he was wearing a sleeveless shirt, and the muscles in his arms were impressively defined. He commented on them, asking how he trained and if he used protein powder. The moment his fingers brushed against Ethan's bicep, Ethan recoiled as if he'd been electrocuted. He hissed at Liam not to touch him. Liam was baffled, asking what the big deal was. It wasn't like a girl was touching him. He was certain now that something was seriously off with Ethan. But as a good roommate, brother, and father figure, he decided not to press the issue. As more students filed in, Liam was still trying to figure out a way to break the ice when someone tapped him on the shoulder. He turned to see Chloe, the business school's most popular girl, smiling at him. She explained that she wanted to sit with Ethan to ask him a few questions and asked if he would mind switching seats with her. Liam, realizing he had misread the situation, refused. It wasn't convenient, he said, telling her she could ask after class. He hadn't given up his afternoon nap just to hand his seat over. Chloe started to protest, but Ethan cut her off by announcing that the professor had arrived. She scowled and found another seat. Liam thought he saw the corners of Ethan's mouth lift in a suppressed smile. He wondered if studying really made him this happy. This was the world of a top student, he supposed. Ethan then turned to him and asked why he hadn't let her sit there. Liam worried that Ethan thought he was sabotaging his love life. Ethan's voice was low when he explained that he wanted to sit next to him, that he wanted to clear the air. Before he could finish, the professor called Liam's name, asking him to answer the next question. Liam didn't even know what the question was. As he was about to guess randomly, a slip of paper with the answer neatly written on it appeared on his desk. Ethan had passed it to him without even looking away from the front of the room. The answer saved him, even earning him some participation points. Ethan then told him that from now on, he was to sit with him in the front and stop messing around in the back. Liam started to object but found himself nodding instead. He immediately regretted it. He missed playing games with Mike. When class finally ended, Liam was desperate to get back to the dorm for a nap. Ethan naturally went to ask the professor some follow-up questions. As Liam and Mike were leaving the hall, Chloe blocked their path. She demanded to know why Liam had refused to switch seats with her, insisting she just wanted to talk to Ethan. She looked at him with her lip trembling, and Liam felt a pang of unease. He explained that he needed to talk to Ethan about something as well. She shot back that they were roommates and could talk anytime, so why did it have to be during class? Her questioning grew more accusatory. Then she stopped abruptly. Her eyes widened. She asked if they were a couple. The question hung in the air. Everyone in the hallway stopped and stared at him. Even Mike's jaw dropped. He sputtered that he thought they were just friends, asking when they had gotten together secretly. Liam frantically denied it, insisting he was being framed. But Chloe didn't listen. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she ran off. The other students started whispering among themselves, sighing about how all the handsome guys were being taken by other guys. Liam felt utterly wronged. Mike looked at him with a mischievous grin. Back in the dorm, he immediately sent Liam a link. Liam glanced at the title and almost threw his phone. It was an online quiz titled, "How Gay Are You?" The viral international test. He told Mike to get lost, insisting it was nonsense and that he was completely straight. Mike insisted it was famously accurate and pestered him until he agreed to take it. After entering some basic information, he was faced with over 50 questions. He complained that a question about whether his bed was messy or neat was about personal hygiene, not sexuality. Mike countered that a lot of gay men were extremely tidy. As he said it, Liam's gaze involuntarily drifted to Ethan's perfectly made bed. Ethan had been made their dorm leader precisely because he was so neat. Even on weekends when there were no inspections, his quilt was folded, and his desk was immaculate. Resigned, Liam started answering the questions while Mike hovered over his shoulder, making sure he answered honestly. He pointed out that Liam had, in fact, rejected a girl who brought him breakfast last semester. Liam argued he was just trying to save her money. Just then, Ethan returned with his textbooks. Mike immediately roped him into taking the test too. But no one seemed interested in Ethan's results. They were all crowded around Liam. When he finished, Mike eagerly told him to submit it and see the results. Liam's heart pounded as he tapped the screen. The next second, the room erupted. Mike shouted that the result was 100% hidden gay. He couldn't believe Liam had been hiding it so well. Liam protested that it had to be inaccurate. There was no way. Mike, done teasing him, went to check on Ethan. Ethan, looking completely unfazed, simply showed them his phone screen. His result was 100% pure gay. The dorm fell silent. Mike and the other roommate took a synchronized step back, their eyes darting between Liam and Ethan. Mike asked if they were actually together. Liam was about to deny it vehemently when he turned and saw Ethan staring at him. It was the same look as always, but for the first time it sent a chill down his spine. A terrible premonition began to form in his mind. What if Ethan really was gay? The question plagued him, and he found his own behavior starting to change. Where he once would have casually slung an arm around Ethan's shoulders, now he flinched if their hands brushed when Ethan passed him something. A new fear took hold. What if he was being turned gay? The thought was so alarming he decided the only solution was to start dating a girl immediately. The problem was, he hadn't been proactive in his first 2 years of college and had even turned down a few offers. Now, as a junior, his options seemed limited. The freshmen all had boyfriends, his classmates were busy with internships, and the senior girls were focused on graduation. He went on a few dates, but they all fizzled out. He finally met someone he liked, but after a few minutes of conversation, she looked at him shyly and asked if he could give her Ethan's number. He wanted to scream. Here he was, a charming, handsome guy, and she was interested in the quiet, broody one. After a string of failures, he started to wonder if he'd lost his universal appeal. Then one day, while he was playing basketball on the outdoor courts, Chloe from the finance department approached him and offered him a bottle of water. He warily asked if she wanted Ethan's number too. She shook her head and said it was his number she wanted. The water was for him. She said she'd been watching him for a while. She pressed the cold bottle into his hand and even offered to wipe the sweat from his forehead with a tissue, which made him back away hastily. There were too many people watching for that kind of intimacy. He accepted the water and thanked her. She asked if she could stay and watch, telling him he was a really good player. He scratched his head and mumbled another thank you. When he turned back to the game, he saw Ethan staring at him, his face a thunderous mask. He thought it was just his imagination until Ethan stole the ball from him for the third time in a row. A switch flipped inside him. His competitive streak ignited, and he started guarding Ethan relentlessly. He accused him of having it out for him today. Ethan retorted, asking if he was trying to show off for his new admirer. Before Liam could process the question, Ethan broke past his defense and sank a perfect three-pointer. By the end of the game, Ethan had targeted him at least 7 or 8 times. Chloe had to leave with her friends, but not before giving him a small snack for energy. As Liam walked back to the bench, Mike started teasing him, saying the campus beauty was still falling for his charms. Ethan stood a short distance away, watching them with a deep frown. Liam couldn't hold it in any longer. He marched up to Ethan and demanded to know why he had been so aggressive. They had played together countless times, but today felt personal. Ethan's voice was sharp. He asked if Liam hadn't had a nice chat with Chloe. He pointed out that he'd accepted her water, so with that extra hydration, he should have played better. The accusation lit a fuse. All the pent-up frustration from the past few weeks exploded. Liam's voice rose as he shouted back that if Ethan liked her so much, he should go after her himself. The water was a gift, so what if he accepted it? If Ethan had a problem with it, he should take it up with her, not him. The air between them crackled with tension. Ethan put down his own water bottle, stepped up to Liam, and met his furious gaze. He said, with cutting finality, that Liam was a complete idiot. An idiot? First the aggression, now insults. They were in another Cold War. This time, however, Liam's anger faded quickly. It was a stupid argument, not worth damaging a 3-year friendship over. He decided to be the bigger person and extend an olive branch. He sent a text inviting Ethan out for drinks at a bar that night. Ethan agreed immediately. It seemed he was willing to meet him halfway. Liam had also invited Mike and the others, but when evening came, they all had other plans, dates, study groups, gaming tournaments. In the end, it was just him and Ethan, sitting across from each other in a dimly lit booth. Liam was still trying to formulate an apology when Ethan spoke first. He admitted that he had been out of line earlier, that his emotions had gotten the better of him, and he was sorry. Liam, relieved, quickly said it was fine. He then added that if Ethan really did like Chloe, he should pursue her. Ethan stated flatly that he didn't like her. Liam asked why he had reacted so strongly then, and who it was that he actually liked. Ethan looked at him, about to answer, when a figure suddenly lunged toward their table. A person of ambiguous gender, reeking of alcohol and cheap perfume, draped themselves over Liam. The person purred that he was handsome and suggested they have a drink together. Liam tried to push them off. The person just clung tighter, whispering not to pretend, that they could tell he was gay, just like them. What nonsense was this? The person was like an octopus, squeezing the air from his lungs. A firm voice cut through the noise. Let him go. Ethan was on his feet, yanking the person off Liam by the collar of their shirt. He demanded to know who gave them permission to touch him. Ethan's face was terrifyingly dark. The person's aggressive demeanor vanished, replaced by a timid apology. They said it was a misunderstanding, that they hadn't realized they were a couple and had just wanted to say hello. Liam was about to correct them. Who said they were a couple? When a loud roar echoed through the bar. Someone was shouting, asking who was messing with their partner. Several large, muscular men stormed toward their table. The person who had been all over Liam ran to the leader, crying that Ethan and Liam had been harassing them. It was a classic case of the aggressor playing the victim. The leader, a huge man, glared at them and rolled up his sleeves. He sneered that they looked too young to be trying to steal someone's partner and that they needed to be taught a lesson. Liam immediately tried to de-escalate, saying it was all a misunderstanding. He was a firm believer in strategic retreat. The man waved his hand dismissively. His cronies took off their jackets, revealing arms covered in tattoos. Just as Liam was about to speak again, Ethan pushed him back, shielding him with his own body. He told Liam to call the police while he held them off. Liam peeked around Ethan at the group of menacing figures. He called out to the big guys, saying they should relax, that they were all on the same side. The leader laughed, asking what side that was. Liam paused for a beat, then declared with unwavering conviction that he was on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. The entire bar went silent. Even patrons at other tables turned to stare. Liam added weakly, asking the big man if he wasn't on that side too. With the entire room now watching, the man was in a bind. Denying it would make him look like a villain. He grunted, told them they were lucky, and ordered his crew to leave. He pointed to the door, and Liam immediately grabbed Ethan's arm and bolted. Once they were safely outside, Liam burst out laughing. He boasted about his cleverness, about winning a battle without throwing a single punch. Ethan agreed that it was an impressive move. Since their night was ruined, they started walking back toward campus. They had only gone a block when they heard footsteps pounding behind them. Ethan yelled and shoved him hard. Liam tumbled to the pavement just in time to see one of the men from the bar swing a metal pipe, bringing it down with a sickening thud across Ethan's back. A surge of pure rage shot through Liam. He yelled that they would regret ambushing them. He scanned the alley, spotted a pair of discarded metal conduits, and grabbed them. The men were clearly drunk, their movements clumsy. Liam and Ethan managed to hold their own, but they were outnumbered. The fight was broken up when a security guard from the bar finally noticed the commotion and intervened. Ethan rushed to help him up. He asked if he was okay. When Liam tried to stand, a sharp pain shot through his lower leg, and it buckled beneath him. What had started as a night out ended with his leg in a cast. Since he was injured, he went home to recover. Aside from a large bruise on his back, Ethan only had a few scrapes on his face. It seemed the big guy had deliberately aimed for his handsome features. The next day, Ethan came to visit him at home. Liam commented on his attire, asking why he always dressed so formally when visiting. The man looked like he was about to attend a board meeting. Liam muttered that he was such a show-off. He tried to stretch and winced as a pulled muscle in his injured leg protested. He grumbled that he was still angry. If that person at the bar hadn't been so handsy, none of this would have happened. He complained about gay people who couldn't keep their hands to themselves. Ethan stood beside him, silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on him. Liam asked why he was staring. Ethan spoke, his voice quiet but clear. He said there was something he had been wanting to tell him for a long time. He was gay too. Liam froze, a dozen retorts dying in his throat. He asked if it was true. Ethan confirmed it. He could state unequivocally that he was gay. While the initial shock was immense, after a moment it didn't seem entirely impossible. But then another thought struck him. If he was gay, why had he been looking for a girlfriend? He had almost set his sister up with him. The thought made him sick. Ethan calmly pointed out that he had said he wanted a relationship. He had never specified that it had to be with a girl. The logic was so infuriatingly sound that Liam was left speechless. A new, absurd thought entered his head. He asked what the dowry was in Ethan's family. Ethan looked confused. Liam accused him of still being after his sister, even as a gay man. Outraged, he started spouting nonsense. He said it was $5 million, cash, non-refundable, and that after marriage, Ethan would have to be a completely subservient husband. When Ethan fell silent, Liam smirked, confident he had scared him off. He would never let his sister fall into such a complicated situation. Ethan asked if he was sure. Liam said of course. Without another word, Ethan took out his phone and started tapping. He asked for the last 4 digits of Liam's bank account number. An unsettling feeling washed over Liam. He asked what he was doing. Ethan replied that it was nothing, just that his bank had a daily transfer limit of $50,000, so he would have to go to the bank tomorrow to wire the rest. Liam's jaw dropped. He asked if he was really going to marry his sister. Ethan's body went rigid. The look he gave Liam was one he usually reserved for people who asked incredibly stupid questions. He said with painstaking slowness that he had never even met his sister, so why would he marry her? Then who? Liam's voice trailed off. Ethan's gaze was unwavering. He asked if he really hadn't figured it out. He wanted to marry him. Liam felt his brain shut down. He stared at Ethan, the words taking a long time to register. He finally found his voice, sputtering that he thought they were friends. But Ethan had been trying to get with him all along. Ethan corrected him, saying he had never once thought of him as just a friend. As he spoke, he reached for Liam's hand. Liam scrambled backward, shouting that it was impossible, that he was a straight guy. Ethan's simple question, "Are you sure?" stopped him cold. In the past, he would have punched someone for saying that. But now he was silent. Had he really been turned gay? Ethan asked him if he truly, honestly saw him as just a friend. Then, he closed the distance between them and wrapped his arms around him in a firm hug. He told him to stay still for 10 seconds and just ask himself, honestly, if this was how he felt about a friend. Liam was held tight, and after a moment of resistance, his body went still. He had plenty of friends, but he hated overly familiar physical contact. He always instinctively shrugged off Mike's casual arm around his shoulders. So why wasn't he pushing Ethan away? Ethan's voice was a low murmur against his ear. He said that he was really in love with him. Finding someone you love is rare, he asked, so why should something like gender get in the way? Liam didn't answer. He was about to say something when his bedroom door was thrown open. His sister stood there, her eyes as wide as dinner plates. She had heard he was injured and had come to check on him. She took in the scene, her gaze flicking between them. She stammered an apology for interrupting and told them to continue, then quickly shut the door behind her. The spell was broken. Liam shoved Ethan away, flustered and unable to form a coherent sentence. His best friend had just become his suitor, and he was completely blindsided. Ethan must have sensed his turmoil. He said he would let him think about it and would come back to see him tomorrow. From his second-floor window, Liam watched Ethan walk away, not moving until his figure disappeared down the street. A moment later, Ava came in with a plate of sliced fruit. She had a hesitant look on her face that told him everything. She had probably already called their parents. She said she had run into Ethan on his way out, but wasn't sure what to call him. She wanted to know if she should refer to him as her brother or her new sister-in-law. Liam asked if she didn't find the whole thing weird. She shrugged, saying love is love and gender doesn't matter. He was amazed at how easily she accepted it, far more easily than he did. He wondered if he was just old-fashioned. He asked if she would really be okay with him bringing a guy home. She assured him it wouldn't be weird at all. Whether he brought home a man or a woman, he would still be her brother, and she was sure their parents would feel the same way. Her words were like a key unlocking something in his mind. He wanted time to figure out his own heart. But Ethan suddenly had a family emergency and took a leave of absence from school for 2 weeks. After his cast came off, Liam limped back to class. Going down a flight of stairs, Mike, seeing him struggle, reached out to help him. The instant Mike's hand touched his arm, Liam recoiled. Mike looked hurt, assuring him that he had showered yesterday and his hands were clean. Liam gave him an awkward smile, his thoughts once again turning to Ethan. When they were together every day, he hadn't noticed, but now that he was gone, he found himself thinking about him constantly. Was he really falling for him? The thought was terrifying. He spent 3 days in an existential crisis. That evening, Chloe called and asked him to take a walk around the track with her. She asked if he was feeling better. He said he was and thanked her for asking. She nodded, her gaze lingering on him. She then asked what he thought of her. He replied that she was great, a campus celebrity. She pressed, saying he must know what she meant. She had asked him out specifically to find out how he felt. As he met her expectant gaze, he realized what she was asking and instinctively took a step back. Chloe froze, a look of confusion on her face. He apologized, telling her she was wonderful, but they just weren't right for each other. Maybe Ethan had been right all along. Their relationship had long since crossed the line from simple friendship. Once he admitted that to himself, everything became clearer. You meet so many people in your life, but finding someone you truly love is so rare. Did gender really matter that much? He decided to wait until Ethan came back to talk to him. When Ethan finally returned 2 weeks later, he was thinner and looked utterly exhausted. The first thing he did when he got back to the dorm was collapse into bed. Liam asked if he should bring him back some dinner later. As he leaned over to check on him, Ethan turned his head. His voice was rough with sleep as he asked if Liam's concern meant he had figured things out. Liam told him to get lost, saying he was just worried he might die in his sleep, and he didn't want to get into grad school that way. Ethan sighed that he had been hoping for too much, then told him not to worry about dinner and rolled over. Ethan slept from morning until night. When Liam got up late to use the bathroom, he glanced at Ethan's bed and saw it was empty. He opened the door and found him on the balcony, on the phone. Ethan was leaning against the wall, one hand in his pocket, his eyes closed as if in deep thought. He didn't even notice Liam approach. In the stillness of the night, Liam could clearly hear the woman's voice on the other end of the line. His mother was telling him she was doing this for his own good and asking why he always had to fight her on everything. She had already arranged for him to attend a university abroad to bolster his resume. She also mentioned the girl he'd had dinner with last week, saying she was very interested in him and kept asking for his number. She said that all she and his father wanted was to see him settle down and start a family. As she continued to lecture, Ethan opened his eyes and saw Liam standing in the doorway. A flash of panic crossed his face. He quickly ended the call. They both spoke at once. Liam asked if he was going abroad. Ethan asked what he had heard. After a moment of silence, Ethan nodded. He might be going. The words Liam wanted to say stuck in his throat, finally emerging as a hollow. That's good. All his recent revelations, all his newfound courage, evaporated. If Ethan was leaving, then his feelings didn't matter. But even as he thought it, a bitter resentment grew inside him. Just as he was finally coming to terms with his feelings, Ethan was going to run away. The anger festered, and he found himself constantly annoyed with Ethan again. He was angry with him and angry with himself. He spent the weekend at home, determined to avoid being in the same space as Ethan. When he was leaving the dorm, Mike asked why he was in such a hurry, joking that he needed to go home to recuperate. Ethan, who had been reading, looked up at the mention of his leg and asked if it hadn't healed yet. Liam insisted it was fine, that he could run and jump. He packed a small bag and left, but Ethan followed him out. He demanded to know why he was following him. Ethan said he just wanted to know what he had decided. Liam stopped and turned to face him. He said he thought they weren't a good match. Ethan's face fell. He insisted that Liam was lying, that he could see it. Liam retorted sarcastically, asking if he was a lie detector now. He turned and walked away, not looking back. His family's driver was already waiting. As he got in the car, he told the driver to go. He could see Ethan in the rearview mirror, standing motionless on the sidewalk, looking small and lost in the crowd of students. Even as the car pulled away, he remained there, a solitary figure frozen in place, until he disappeared from view. A heavy weight settled in Liam's chest, making it hard to breathe. He was distracted all evening, tossing and turning in bed. The next morning, he came downstairs with dark circles under his eyes. Ava was at the table eating breakfast. She asked why he was home for the weekend instead of out on a date with his new brother-in-law. He mumbled that there was no brother-in-law. She immediately leaned in, studying his face. She noted that his dark circles were practically sitting on his cheekbones and concluded that they must have had a very serious fight. He ignored her and ate a few bites of cereal before heading back upstairs to sleep. He had just closed his eyes when his bedroom door opened and he heard footsteps. He sat up, ready to yell at his sister for coming in without knocking, but it wasn't Ava standing in his room. It was Ethan. He asked how he had gotten there. Ethan explained that he had tried calling and texting, but Liam hadn't responded, so he had no choice but to come to his house. Liam told him he didn't want to talk right now and tried to usher him out of the room, but the door wouldn't open. Ethan informed him that when his sister had let him in, he had seen her holding a key. Liam swore under his breath. A faint giggle came from the other side of the door. Ava's voice was muffled as she apologized, saying it was for his own good. She told him it was unhealthy to keep his feelings bottled up, so he should just sit down and have a nice chat. She added that she had locked the door and was going to make them some tea. He couldn't believe it. This sister was a traitor. Ethan looked at him, a small smile playing on his lips, and asked if they could talk now. Looking at him, Liam felt his anger rising again. He demanded to know what there was to talk about since Ethan was just going to leave for another country anyway. Ethan explained that he needed to clarify. Going abroad was his mother's idea, not his. The reason he'd been home was to argue with them about it. He had already made it clear to them that he had no intention of leaving. No intention of leaving. Liam's anger deflated slightly. He then asked about the dinner with the other girl. A real smile finally broke through Ethan's weary expression. He asked if Liam was jealous. Liam sputtered a denial, but the words felt hollow. Ethan's face was alight with joy. He knew he was jealous. That was why he cared about whether he was going abroad or having dinner with someone else. He said that Liam cared about him. Liam found he had no argument to offer. He couldn't convince even himself that it wasn't jealousy, that it wasn't because he cared. Ethan's voice grew serious. He told Liam he loved him, and he was absolutely sure of it. The time he had been away from school was because he had come out to his parents. They had been furious. They had grounded him, tried to force him to go on dates, and pushed the study abroad plan. But he had made up his mind. On this, he would not back down. No matter what, he said, they had to be together. His conviction was absolute. It was clear he had thought this through and was ready for the fight. Liam realized he wasn't a coward either. He looked Ethan in the eye and warned him that if he ever found out he was lying to him, he would be in serious trouble. A brilliant smile spread across Ethan's face. He lunged forward and hugged him tightly. He asked when they were going to the bank so he could arrange for the dowry to be transferred. Liam scoffed, telling him to get lost. It was clearly his dowry, not Liam's. Ethan didn't argue, just held him tighter. A knock came at the door. It was Ava, asking if they were done fighting and if they wanted some water. Liam yelled at her to open the door first. When she did, a tray with 2 glasses of tea was on the floor, but Ava was long gone. The little rascal was probably afraid he would come after her. Ethan ended up staying at his house, refusing to leave unless Liam agreed to go on a proper date with him. Liam marveled at how he had never noticed what a stubborn manipulator Ethan could be. Ethan just grinned, asking if he hadn't noticed. He pointed out that it was that very stubbornness that had won him over. Liam told him to shut up, but there was no heat in it. He noticed a rustling in the bushes in the yard. He yelled at the moving leaves, asking his sister if she was done with her homework. Ava popped her head out, claiming she wasn't spying, just passing by. Then she took off running like a startled rabbit. He turned back to find Ethan watching him with an amused, loving expression. He told him not to look at him like that it was extremely punchable. Ethan's smile widened. He promised he wouldn't do it again. After all, he said, if Liam hit him now, it would probably count as domestic abuse. Liam lunged at him with a playful kick, and Ethan dodged, laughing. What was supposed to be a quiet evening watching the sunset in the garden turned into them chasing each other across the lawn. Maybe this was what life was supposed to be, full of unexpected turns that deviated from the planned route. And maybe the beauty of it all was in that very change.